Yo, what's up? This is Giorgio Martini from Noise is King, and in this video we're going to show you how to finish tracks. This video takes ideas from this video from Il Gates and also this video from Danny J. Lewis. You should really check those videos out because they have some really good advice on how to finish tracks, and they have some different tricks and tips that they can really help you out to finish your tracks. So this tutorial is divided into 4 parts. The first part is having dependent tracks for your drums. The second part is how to create your main idea on the session view. On the third part, we're going to see how to move from your idea in the session view to the arrangement view. And in the fourth part, we're going to see some conclusions and some tips. All right, part 1, have independent tracks for your drums. As you know, drum racks is a really cool instrument that lets you have many instruments inside of a single device. And this is really cool because you can add any kind of instrument to your drum rack and then you can sequence it on a single clip. You can also do finger drumming, add effects and many other cool stuff, but there's a catch. The problem with the drum rack is that you can only have one clip per drums. So for example, if you have one drum rack, when you go to the arrangement view, there is only one clip which you can either turn on or off. Of course, you can create a new clip, but this is not the most ideal workflow. Ideally, what you want is you want to have different tracks, for one track for your drum, for your snares, one track for your hi-hats, one track for your kick. And what this allows you is to turn things on and off and quickly come with different combinations in the arrangement view. And this is what really helps mostly techno and house and like electronic dance music to keep things interesting. So if you want to use drum racks, you can still use them, but you have to do something called extracting the chains. To extract the chains, you go to your drum rack and you select the track or tracks that you want to extract, and then you right click and you select extract chains. Ideally, you should do this for all of your tracks. So in the end, if you have 8 sounds in your drum rack, you have 8 independent lanes of sound. Once you've done this, you have all your extracted chains as normal tracks in Ableton Live. I personally stopped using drum racks because the kind of music that I do, it can be easily sequenced with regular MIDI tracks. And I don't do a lot of finger drumming, but if you do use a lot of finger drumming or really don't want to stop using drum racks, don't do it. The only thing that you have to do is when you're finished with your idea of your song and you want to move into the arrangement view, then is when you have to extract the chains. Okay, so that's a very important part. Have independent tracks for your drums. Part 2, creating the main idea of your song. Have you ever had the feeling that your song is like all over the place and is not really consistent and is not cohesive and it doesn't really have a clear idea? Well, one reason for this could be that you have way too many different elements or different melodies and different rhythms. And one way you can avoid this is by having what is called a super loop. A super loop is basically a scene in Ableton Live full of musical ideas that all fit together with each other. Let's see one example. Over here I have my super loop. And as you can see, there are many things going on, but everything is cohesive. Everything fits together to this track. So I can still have variations, like for example over here I have another clip where the kick is, and what it does is that I have just EQ'd out the kick so that it builds up some tension, and when I bring the kick again it feels good. Also, I have added over here a longer clip for the pads, which are just longer and they have more notes and they like create some kind of chord progression or build up. But the important part right here is that all these variations don't really change the main idea of the song. The main idea of the song has stayed the same, and this is really important if you want your tracks to be cohesive, because as Il Gates says in his video, a track must do one thing and do it right. All right, so once again, the super loop is like the main idea of your song. your North Star. It's like the soul of your song. So you have to be really aware of it and try to not change it too much and have too many variations, because this would make the song really fuzzy and unclear. Part 3, moving to the arrangement view. Okay, so let's say that you have a good foundation of your song. This would mean you have many tracks, like from, I don't know, from 15 to even more, I don't know, 20, 25. It's really up to you. But a good rule of thumb would be to have plenty of tracks, because this gives you the possibility to play more, turning things on and off. Also, one thing really important is to have something that makes the song memorable. So maybe have a lead that is really catchy, or maybe a sound effect, or maybe somebody saying something like a chorus. So, because sometimes some songs are just cool, but they don't have really something to remember them. So try to add something in your song that makes it memorable. If you decided to use a drum rack, this is the moment to extract your chains. As you can see here, I have my kick, my hi-hats, my snares, and other percussion sounds, all in their independent tracks. At this point, you can go in two different directions. One is you can do what is called a subtractive arrangement, or you can also lay out the sections or the parts of your song on the session view and then record them to the arrangement view. Let's take a look first at the subtractive arrangement. So before we begin, it's really important to name your tracks and color them in meaningful ways. And this is different for everybody. For example, for me, a bass looks like orange, and snares, they feel like red, and hi-hats are also like blue. Also, if a bass sounds like acid, to me, I would write acid bass or something like this. Something that is going to help you quickly find it, because this is going to keep the inspiration going. Now, we have our super loop. What we're going to do is we're going to select the whole scene, and we can do that by clicking on the first clip and then clicking on the last clip, and now everything is selected. We would then click and drag the whole scene, and while we are dragging, we're going to press tab. Now we are in arrangement view, and now we're going to drop all this scene into the right place. In my case, I'm going to match the kick clip with the kick track. All right, so let's do that. As you can see, now the clips have different lengths. Some of them have 8 bars, some of them have 4 bars, some of them have different lengths. What we want to do now is that we want to adjust all of these clips to 8 bars. We can do this by clicking and dragging the clip, and we would do this for all of our clips. And as you can see, we have some clips that are longer than 8 bars. For now, we're just going to ignore them. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to consolidate them. So we go ahead and we right click on them and we choose consolidate. And we do this for all the clips. Now we have all of our clips as 8-bar loops. Next thing we have to do is we're going to deactivate them. For this, we're going to select all of the clips that we have converted to 8-bar loops. We have them all selected, and now we press numpad 0. What this does is it's going to deactivate them. So it's going to mute them. So once we have done this, and we select them all again if they're not selected, and then we press Command D. What this does is it's going to duplicate all these deactivated clips, and we do that as many times so that we get a length of, like, I don't know, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it is that you want the duration of your song to be. From now on, we have our skeleton of our song. Now it's just a matter of turning clips on and off, and this is the way we would create our arrangement. Now we have all of our skeleton of our song. We have a structure, and we know all of these clips, they sound together with each other. So at the beginning, the first 32 bars, we're going to add something really basic, like maybe just a drum bass and maybe some synths. And then, like, after 32 bars, we're going to bring some more beats. And like this, we're going to be creating different sections. I'm going to do a little demonstration right here so you can see how that process would go. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so from now on, it's just a matter of turning clips on and off with numpad 0, like this. And like this, we would build up our sections. Like, for example, our first 32 bars would be our intro, and then the next 32 bars would be another part. And like this, we would be creating all of our sections. You don't have to always like add a section every 32 bars. If you want to add a new section on the next 16 bars, you can do that. But it's a good rule of thumb to keep to use these 32 bars, at least at the beginning when you are not so used to the arrangement. So I'm going to add something really simple for the intro right here. So maybe this one's over here. And right now it's just like a matter of trial and error. So and maybe I like it, maybe I don't, but because I have this structure over here and I can easily just with one keystroke turn a clip on or off, it's really easy for me to experiment, to try things out. And if I would have done this with the drum rack, where I have all the drums into one single clip, is much more difficult to have this kind of quickly that you can quickly experiment with turning some drum sounds on or off. So let's see how this sounds, for example. Maybe I can add something like this so that it's not so boring at the beginning. Sounds good. I think for this part we can add the EQ'd kick, so let's add that one over here. I'm gonna keep on, maybe alternate the maracas over here. And here I think actually the lead would actually fit really well, and maybe continue this sound over here. So let's see how that sounds. Yeah, I like that. Over here I know my bass is going to come in because this is my other new section, so probably the splash also is going to fit in really good. I'm gonna add something like this, and also probably some good hi-hats over here to bring more energy. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. And something like maybe here I can add another splash. And maybe the only the bass is missing there. I think this one's going to be also good here. Now comes, and here I think it would be a good, so that we build up some more tension for the next big section that is coming over here. And over here you would add your other section, which could be, I don't know, it's just a matter of playing maybe some of these pads that we haven't used, or I don't know, it's just a matter of you starting to play and get a feel for what you want the next section of the song to be, okay? Some rules that you can take into account when building your arrangement is, for example, in techno and house, normally we have 1 minute intro and 1 minute outro. That is normally 32 bars. So knowing this, we can add our intro and our outro with a length of 32 bars. In techno and house, especially, adding changes every 8 bars keeps things interesting. Also, building noticeable sections or big changes every 32 bars is a good idea, because normally every 32 bars we have the feeling or we want like something to happen. Another tip is building tension and release. This means, for example, that if one section is really full of things with a lot of energy, it makes sense that the next part releases all that energy by removing stuff so that it is a more quiet section. Now, these are just guidelines. If you don't feel like making a big change every 32 bars, don't do it. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. These are just guidelines. What really matters is if it feels good and if it sounds good. So that was the subtractive arrangement technique. The next technique is going to be laying out the parts of your song on the session view. For this, we go ahead and we copy our super loop, and somewhere down below we paste it. And what we're going to do now is the first super loop that we pasted is going to be our intro. So for this, we're going to stop all the clips and we're going to start adding the clips that we want or that we think would be a good combination to create our intro. When we already have something that we think would be good for an intro, we can go ahead and down below add some more stuff or remove stuff that would be a good combination for the part after the intro. We would remove this process until we have a good amount of scenes or parts of our track. For example, over here I have created already a couple of scenes that I feel they sound good in succession. Let's take a look at how that sounds. Of course, the more you play the scenes, the more you get a feeling of how it's going to sound. So this technique is really good because you get a little bit more of a feeling of how the song is going to sound. Alright, so let's see how we would record this into the arrangement view. For this, we're going to press the record button over here, and then we're going to start playing the intro. So let's do that. As you can see, the intro is being recorded into the arrangement view. And when I press the next scene, that next scene is going to be recorded into the arrangement view. Once you are done recording, triggering your scenes into the arrangement view, you would have an arrangement. And from this point on would be a matter of more editing and fine tuning. You should totally try both techniques. Maybe you like more the first one or the second one. So just go ahead, play with both and see what works best for you. Once that you have your arrangement, some things that you can do are recording automation, either with a MIDI controller or with your mouse. Like for example, the cut off of a filter or the wet amount of an audio effect. You can edit your drums or add drum fills. You can even add more melodies or more sounds. You don't have to stop creating or adding stuff. The cool thing about this is that you have a solid, now a more cohesive structure of your song. Now you can add on top and it will still be cohesive. And finally, you can add effects to create build-ups or drops. Part 4, tips and conclusions. So these are just some tips and conclusions that I think are useful. I think you should use many tracks. So if you're just using like 4 tracks, it's going to be difficult to create an interesting arrangement. On the other hand, if you have 30 tracks, you have 30 instruments or things to turn on and off, which is going to be really helpful when it comes to making your track interesting. Another thing is that the super loop is super important, so use it. But let's say that your song has like 2 main parts. What do? What you would do is that you have your super loop, and well, you just create another super loop, which is your part B of your super loop. But you always have to know in your mind that the super loop is the main idea of your song. Also, when I talk about the super loop, I don't say that you shouldn't add variations or try variations. You should totally do that. But the cool thing about the super loop is that it forces you to stick to one musical idea per instrument. And this is really useful because you can have one synth track and you can have this synth track like, I don't know, 8 different variations. But if you do this for all the tracks, it's going to make your song really fuzzy and not clear. You can create many variations on the creation phase, but try to stick to one for the main idea of your song. Afterwards, in the arrangement view, you will be able to add all these variations in different places, but still keep a cohesive idea of your song. And lastly, the only way to finish tracks is by finishing tracks. So try to make a habit out of it, and I hope that some tips in this tutorial really helps you finishing tracks. Well, that was it for this tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.